This is something I've been wanting to cover for months now. Holy hell, am I hyped for SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Yes, let me talk about a SpongeBob game for a hot minute. I want to emphasize, this is a game I'm keeping on my watch list until it releases, because I want to re-experience this game in glorious HD. Get comfortable, kiddies. For anyone who doesn't know, allow me to elaborate and enlighten you all for a while why me and other people are making a big deal out of a licensed SpongeBob game getting a remake. Licensed games often have this stigma of usually being mediocre more often than not, with a plethora of TV shows, comics, movies, and other media getting game releases, and it's usually for the sake of expanding that franchise's brand rather than making a good game. Official gaming critique businesses fell for the stigma surrounding this game. However, I ask for people to be hesitant on that stigma when it comes to SpongeBob games, particularly for the movie game, but especially for Battle for Bikini Bottom. BFBB doesn't have this stigma. Imagine a licensed game that's actually good. So good, it could be comparable to many AAA games with its level of quality. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is a game that released in 2003 for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. It's a 3D platforming collectathon in much of the same vein as Super Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie. The story of the game is that Plankton has created an army of robots to take over Bikini Bottom, but in old SpongeBob comedic fashion, he forgot to set the robot creation machine to obey, so the robots cause havoc on their own accord and run amok. Coincidentally, at the same time this is happening, SpongeBob and Patrick are playing a game called Robots and Racehorses, to which SpongeBob hypothetically brings up the cool idea of playing with real robots, only for Patrick to bring up his magic wishing shell, leading the both of them to wish for robots to be real, wake up the next day, and find out robots have been taking over Bikini Bottom. You could probably guess where this goes. SpongeBob feels responsible for this whole debacle because of his wish, while Plankton temporarily tricks SpongeBob into helping him get back into his chum bucket. It's precisely the type of setup you'd expect out of an episode from the show, so the story is good because it works for what it's doing and the brand it's using. You play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy in this 3D platforming collectathon, where your main objective is to collect golden spatulas throughout various locations from the show: Bikini Bottom, Jellyfish Fields, Lagoon, Rock Bottom, Kelp Forest, etc. You also meet various characters from the show throughout the game: Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Larry Lobster, Mrs. Puff, Bubble Buddy, etc. And even most of the show's voice cast gone on to help work with this game, with the show's visual charm and personality replicated near identically. Just looking at the game's visuals, locales, and the abundance of references and callbacks to the show, you could tell this game is a love letter to fans of SpongeBob. Even the music, not just fitting the SpongeBob vibe, is also surprisingly clean. I find myself listening to at least half of the game's songs in my spare time. Among the dozens of SpongeBob games, most SpongeBob enthusiasts usually regard this game to be the absolute best of them all because of this and the game's own quality as a platformer. I think this game is also the best SpongeBob game, with the SpongeBob movie game being a close second. Growing up, the first console I ever owned was the GameCube, and after getting Pac-Man World 2 as my first video game ever, SpongeBob immediately follows suit, along with some other licensed games and Super Mario Sunshine. So I can happily say my childhood was very fruitful as far as 3D platformers go. But look up other YouTubers, some like Fawful's Minion even go as far to say this game is roughly as good as the 3D Mario games, including Galaxy if not better. This game has a plethora of glitches when you go out of your way to find them, and because of this, the game fostered a speedrunning community several years ago, and has reinvigorated interest in the franchise since. Between this and the game's own level of quality and faithfulness to the original source material, it and the movie game have garnered a cult following of thousands upon thousands of fans, worshipping the game and basking in how replayable and memorable it is. As a platforming experience solely for getting everything SpongeBob related, it could still stand on its own as a solid, thorough, and memorable 3D platformer. Again, its structure is very similar to Mario 64, only going heavier on some collectathon aspects like Banjo-Kazooie. It's not perfect by any means. The game has wonky-ass hit and collision detection, the graphics haven't held up well, the game has knockback, so getting hit can lead to some funny yet sad deaths, and there is some annoying backtracking in the late portion of the game. But there's plenty of ways to explore areas and grab spatulas. You could play with 3 characters with different unique abilities, the level design's good, it controls very well even with its imperfections, and the difficulty curve is mostly reasonable and solid. It truly is a very good game, not just a fantastic licensed game. If you like platformers in any capacity, if you enjoyed Super Mario 64, other 3D Marios or Banjo-Kazooie, and especially if you're a fan of SpongeBob, especially seasons 1 to 3, I highly recommend giving this game a shot as soon as possible, if not when the remake comes out. Whether you're a child right now watching SpongeBob or an adult that used to love SpongeBob or platformers, or still do to either one of these, it is certainly worth checking out. This SpongeBob game that has garnered a pretty decent cult following and is remembered very fondly by many is the first Nickelodeon game to get a remake. Is this the first, by the way? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, have there been other remakes for licensed games based off TV shows? Because Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated may be the very first of its kind to be a remake of a licensed game that's gained a cult following. And the footage we have of the remake so far looks really freaking good. We have a few screenshots. Last month, Gamescom showed off a pre-alpha build of the game, and what the game looks like so far looks incredible, especially for an alpha build. We only have the first area of Jellyfish Field and the boss fight with King Jellyfish, but everything looks like an amazing upgrade. The graphics look very detailed, yet retain a cartoony, almost cel-shaded feel. The texture work is unbelievable compared to the original, and utterly appealing. The characters and robots are far more expressive than in the original. The lighting is beautiful, seeing Jellyfish Field at sunset's pretty. Yeah, there are some obvious touch-ups needed to be done. It doesn't seem like the game will try to be mostly like the original's engine with the physics and controls. The bungee mission wasn't there. Spongebob's arms could be a little longer or just bigger. Spongebob doesn't stall in the air when he uses his bubble wand move midair, which was in the original, and I hope they bring that back, among a few other things. It's a pre-alpha build, so plenty smaller tidbits and nitpicks will likely change in the final product, but that's the thing. This alpha build looks great on its own. It makes you wonder how the rest of the game's gonna look when it releases and what else they'll add. This remake is confirmed to be reviving cut content from the original game, along with adding new content. For example, Rehydrated is going to introduce an entirely new multiplayer mode where you and other people will take out robots together, which I never imagined Battle for Bikini Bottom would ever get multiplayer at all, so that's cool. This was many people's childhood experiences, and the fact it's getting a remake almost 2 decades later is awesome, as it not only gives the older fans another chance at replaying this game under modern coding and new content, an entirely new generation can be introduced to a fantastic game. There can be potential nostalgia bias surrounding this game, which ultimately helps because this is a remake of an old game, and remakes and remasters have the opportunity of making the original experience better, as it's largely the same game. But do not let that fool you with mine and others' arguments for this game. Battle for Bikini Bottom is a genuinely good game. Through the devs talking about the game at Gamescom, we know that they're reviving the robot Squidward boss fight that was in the concept art, and they're reviving the cut level from Patrick's dream. So far, it seems like they're restoring whatever content was originally planned from the original. But I hope they don't keep their vision solely focused on that, and they also keep their sights on any other potential fixes and other problems the original game had. For instance, Kelp Forest for a lot of people was too dark and hard to see, even when upping the brightness of the game or the TV. It was darker than rock bottom. They can probably stand to make that area brighter and easier to see. And add an extra bus stop or two in the Kelp Caves, because finding the crystals and doing the long puzzle to escape the caves definitely felt monotonous, since the only bus stop to swap characters was at the entrance of the cave. Also add Clancy Brown as Mr. Krabs to the voice cast. In the original game, Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man had different voice actors, unlike everyone else in the game. I don't think they could get the original VA for Mermaid Man, because him and the VA for Barnacle Boy as well passed away some time ago, bless their souls. And it seems like they're reusing old voice clips for the game, which I'm okay with, but Mr. Krabs should have his original voice from the show, as it seems like the original audio for the most part, and even the show's original theme song is being used for the game as should. Otherwise, they could probably get away with keeping most of the game's original sound and voice audio, which I wouldn't mind at all, preserving the original quality of the game's voice acting, other than Mr. Krabs, and for any newer bits and pieces of the game that require new voice acting, they can record new lines. Let Spongebob stall in the air with his spin bubble wand move from the original too. The alpha build doesn't have him do that. I hope they add that in, because that was a tech they can easily bring back without many, if any, engine problems, at least compared to the original speedrunning glitches and exploits. It saved many lives and allowed a decent amount of platforming jumps and tricks. They can also add costumes. The SpongeBob movie game, another cult classic with almost the same level of popularity as Battle for Bikini Bottom, introduced optional costumes for SpongeBob and Patrick to wear, and in concept art, you can see SpongeBob in both his Mermaid Man outfit and his primitive sponge loincloth. Another idea they could pull from the movie game is give Patrick his cartwheel move. In that game, they expanded Patrick's moveset and gave him a cartwheel, which was not only an extra move, it also made travel quicker and more efficient. Patrick never had that in Battle for Bikini Bottom, and I believe giving it to him here would add more, as most people like playing as SpongeBob or Sandy more, since they're much more versatile and outright fun, and outside of throwing things, you won't use Patrick for much of anything else otherwise. This would give him more incentive and reason to use him longer. I'm not entirely sure if this is confirmed to be a cut idea, but was Glove World intended to be the pier instead of the actual pier in Goo Lagoon? If so, they could probably expand Goo Lagoon's pier into a bigger amusement park like Glove World. There also seemed to be a bigger platforming section involved in Sandy's Tree Dome looking at concept art. I hope that becomes fully realized as well. Lastly, they had some giant robot terrorize downtown Bikini Bottom in concept art too. I'd like to see that fully realized if possible. And that's all I could think of as far as either issues or worthwhile concept revitalizations. I think it's reasonable to expect more golden spatulas in this game as well. The original had 100 spatulas total, but since they're restoring old boss fights and expanding parts of the game, it makes me think they'll have to add more golden spatulas to compensate, so I could see an extra 10 or 20 more golden spatulas if they're expanding the game by that much. The extra robot boss fights and other extra bits would have to add at least a few more, maybe even some extra socks if possible, or they could add higher shiny object trades with Mr. Krabs, and there's likely more ideas I haven't thought of while making this video. It seems logical to expect at least a handful of more golden spatulas, no? And you wanna know the most shocking thing about this remake too? It only costs $30. This remake is half the price of your normal game, and its pedigree and sheer quality is often compared to that of AAA platformers. You could double dip on this game if you wanted. There's no reason to skip out on a good platforming and or Spongebob experience like this for only 30 bucks. That's an actual steal right there. It's also on all platforms, Steam, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. And thanks to Nintendo GameCube controllers being compatible with the Switch, I get to relive my original experience almost identically. It doesn't come until 2020, most likely late spring or early to mid-summer, which is perfectly fine. But if it'll give enough time to make this game even better than the original, give it all the time it needs. So far, Purple Lamp Studios is doing a fantastic job remaking this classic. Battle for Bikini Bottom is a fantastic game, it's an amazing Spongebob game, Rehydrated is doing the game and series justice with everything it's reviving, graphically it's stunning, the UI and textures and everything is very attractive, the new ideas on display are interesting, and I can't wait to get my hands on this remake next year. I can guarantee a let's play on the original game and Rehydrated when it comes as well, so stay tuned for that. My only wish for after the fact is I have no doubt this remake will sell very well, but I hope with this remake's eventual success, the studio will also works on remaking the SpongeBob movie game. I feel that's one also worth remaking, as it was debatably an expanded experience based off the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. It's almost as, if not just as popular as Battle for Bikini Bottom as well, so it would be worth it since a lot of fans would appreciate it and many people love the original SpongeBob movie as well. But tell me if there's anything I missed. Are there any other potential fixes or problems I missed Battle for Bikini Bottom has? Any ideas from concepts I missed, or other original ideas you may have that the remake could benefit from? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for other SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom videos, eventually movie game videos as well, and other Nintendo content. Stay super.